Have you ever found yourself in a WhatsApp group and you don't know exactly how you ended up in that WhatsApp group? A WhatsApp group where you're supposed to be fundraising money for a marriage ceremony, or you're supposed to be fundraising money for somebody to go and marry in a white wedding. So my people, this is Glassy Linshata, the home of entertainment, matters, politics, relationship, and trending news. So my people, now when I'm comparing US and Europe and taking that as one set and comparing it with Africa, I don't mean to say that in Africa we live bad lives. No, I'm not condemning what Africans do. I'm also not trying to say that the lives in Europe and in America is perfect. What I'm trying to say here, my people, and that's why I'm placing that disclaimer, is that there are some things that we do in Africa that we need to check out the excesses. There is a reason why you find Africans saying the dream they have is to be in America, and it's everybody's dream to go to America, and it's a lot of people's dream to go to Europe, and that's why we see many people losing their lives in Europe and going, losing their lives in Mediterranean Sea on their way to Europe. So my people, we must change things from the root cause. I know for a very long time we've been blaming our politicians, and we've been talking about, oh, our politicians are greedy, our politicians are like this, but our politicians are a product of our own families and our society, and they don't live in an exclusive society where they are not affected by these things. There is no way to live in Africa and you will not get away with some of these excesses. So let's today talk about marriage. So I want to start with the first side of looking at marriage. Let me start with the side where I say they have cut down a lot of excesses, and this is in Europe and in America. So in Europe and in America, marriage is just one straightforward route. Marriage is defined as marriage. You must have a certificate. That is what we call marriage. Of course, there are other things that people call each other partners. They can cohabit. That is allowed, but is not recognized by law as marriage. You can do what we call civil partnership registration, yes, but there is nothing that has to do with a certificate. It is as simple as that. So, my people, now let's look at marriage in Africa. Okay, before I go to marriage in Africa, so when a guy and a lady meets and they want to get married in America or Europe, they basically introduce themselves to their parents. And because I said in my previous video, if you've not watched, comparing a child in Africa and a child in Europe, and I stated that there is what we call independence that is created, so that by the age of 18, somebody is, or the age of consent of, or the age of adulthood, whatever is considered in each individual country, you find that someone has the ability to take care of themselves and also make their own decisions. So you find that when they introduce their girlfriends or boyfriends to each other's parents, there is nothing like, oh, how much money does this person have? Oh, because they are not really like expecting money, or they are not using this boyfriend or girlfriend as a source of income. And this is what happens in our countries. So if you come to Africa, you find that if you've met a guy, the first check is, does he have a job? Can he support? Is there anything for us to gain from it? Because now family will approve of it. So whether it's the lady's family or the guy's family, money factor is important. So we are so materialistic, in short. Because of course we are thinking that because of the kind of dependency that has been created amongst ourselves by the way that the society is designed, we are imagining that anybody that comes in our family is supposed to be a source of income. So first they will check out and find out, do you have any money? Are you able to provide? Can we rely on you as a source of income? And then they will look at so many other. So ladies go for men that have money, and men are looking for ladies that will not rely on them 100% nowadays, not like before. Before they used to look for those ladies that will be cleaning their feet and doing everything like that, but they realize it's not sustainable because a lot has changed. And we have a different type of generation as well that is coming up or cropping out in Africa. And women have also gotten opportunities to work, and they also have education. So now, A guy goes and introduces himself to parents of a lady in Africa, and he is told that he's supposed to come up with dowry, and that's how we find ourselves in this WhatsApp group, because in the kind of dowry that is going to be asked for is a list of things that are in form of money. And I would say it is a price you are paying to get this lady, because that is what it is. It's called bride price. And so this guy, if he's not in a position to pay this money, because probably he doesn't have a good enough job, is going to fundraise this money from people. And that's how we find ourselves in WhatsApp group. And the majority of them do fundraise, like 90%. I think there's a very small percentage of people that actually go and marry without asking for money. So they will fundraise. And that fundraising is what finds us in those WhatsApp groups that I mentioned in the beginning of this video, that you don't know how you got there. And we keep contributing and contributing and contributing. And there's so much money that is always collected to be given to the lady's family. And you know, because there's no maximum amount, but there's a minimum amount that you can bring for you to be able to go with the lady, it depends on the greed of the people asking for the money. So if the people are the lady's family and they have money, they may not ask for that much. But some of them may ask for a lot to show that, to demean the guy, to show him that you are taking our lady, but whatever you are bringing, don't think it is much. You shouldn't think it is. It's like a competition. So there is a lot of negativity and negative energy that goes along also with that, and exploitation. So the guy marries the lady, and once they do the traditional marriage, it's usually followed by a white wedding, or what we call a civil marriage. And this is also needs to be funded, especially the white wedding, if it's a Christian marriage, because it's supposed to be luxurious, it's supposed to be fantastic, it is supposed to be amazing, it's supposed to be, you're supposed to look affluent when you are getting married to that lady, because it is the impression you leave that remains in people's minds forever, that it was a very big wedding. Now, if the marriage collapses, and this is something I want to talk about later, that's when people now come to say, but that wedding was very expensive. How can we contributed too much for you to go and get married. I wish I did not waste my money. People now begin to regret. There's a lot that comes with it. So it is like, once you get married in that very big wedding, you are supposed to stay in that marriage, whether the marriage is okay or not. So already at the point at which someone is getting married, you are already creating problems that will need solutions later. Now, this guy brings in a lot of money. Probably he didn't get enough from the friends, and because he wants to meet the expectations of the parents, he went and took a loan. So he gets married knowing that he has paid too much. So there is some pain that he's taking away from this process of marriage. He goes into marriage with it. He will never tell the woman he is broken, but he has broken him. And he will continue to abuse this woman. He will begin to abuse the woman indirectly, because every small thing that she does is affected by things that he went through during the marriage process. So he is projecting, in short. So he begins to project on the woman, he mistreats her, children, everything, and he ends up into another woman's hands. So the marriage is broken. And now this woman that a lot of money was paid to the parents is struggling to repair the marriage. Now, that's where the problems begin. She will either go to the pastor to seek for prayers, where pastor can even exploit her more, or she will stay in that marriage and suffer mental anguish, praying and crying. And at the same time, the guy will go and bring in and create his own problems. Just that one single problem of dowry that could not be resolved properly, because we set our society in a way that things are not just supposed to function simple and normal. Now, the ones in developed countries in Europe and America, where nobody paid any bride price for anyone, they will just go and look for a lawyer. The marriage is done, and they will move on with their lives. They will go through the healing process without so much pain. Now, in our type of marriages in Africa, the children are there, subjected to pain, everything, everybody is crying, and there's so much that the anguish itself will take a lifetime to even finish it. And that's where I'm saying, my people, we really have to look at what is it that we don't do right and shed off these excesses. so that we can be able to move on with a good type of life. There is a reason why we admire Europe and we admire America and we admire staying and going there, because we think that their lives are perfect. Now, so this guy that married through that process will now go and look for another woman. I'm not saying all of them do that, but a majority of them will do that. Look for another woman, marry. After marrying, they will marry another and another, and it is acceptable for men in Africa to marry more than one wife. It is unacceptable in Europe to marry more than one wife. It is unacceptable in the US to be in marriage with more than one wife. So it is illegal actually. It can attract jail term. In Africa, it is okay. It's allowed. Men can behave anyhow they like, marry as much as their greed allows them. And this is what creates problems that never gets resolved. Because now, once a man marries more than one wife, now there is what goes on there. It's not just financial strain. It is the emotional competition. It is the kind of damage that goes in there. Even for men, they don't even live long to even be with all these women. Because so many women competing for the attention of one man, then he strives to please them. He strives to work so hard to make sure that they are comfortable and the kids are taken care of, because he also wants to show the society overall that he married many because he could. So that ego itself will allow him to run around as much as he can. And at the end of the day, he ends up losing his life earlier and even leaves the wives behind. So now, these problems that are usually created because of these kind of relationships that are not properly defined, or the kind of marriages that are not one way straightforward, end up in our society. So now, these problems now end up in society in form of mental health issues, anguish, jealousy, competition, damaged kids, and all that ends up in our society, and it comes and plays, and people will project in all manner of forms. And that's how come we find that we have people here who are in leadership that some of them are not functional, some of them are not, you look at them and you see like they lost a bit of their heart somewhere, they left it somewhere to pick later, because they are not interested in the welfare of anyone. They are not interested in making sure that any other person lives comfortably, because they themselves do not understand what comfort is. They saw it somewhere else. They saw greed in their families. They've experienced greed when they were going to get married. They experienced greed as they grew up. And now the greed plays out in governance. And now where we begin to shout from all corners, let's fight this, let's fight that. And there are so many activist groups that are coming up, and they are talking about issues pertaining domestic violence, for example. You find some other things like groups that come up to fight corruption and changing what we don't know exactly how to change. And our entire system is completely dysfunctional, because we created the problems right from our families. We didn't create them right from the top. So we want to actually solve the problems from the top, but we don't tend to look at how those problems came about, because that's where in this channel we are trying to do. How come after almost 60-70 years in most countries in Africa after independence, that we keep, or we are where we are, and nothing much has really changed? There is a reason for that, and that reason is not necessarily in the aspect of governance. There is a root cause for that particular issue, and this is why we are coming up with these videos, my people. And so please, if you've not subscribed, make sure that you subscribe and remain very tuned to our channel so that you can always enjoy such kind of content. And please, let's see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.